All right, we got the recording running. Nice to meet you, Shubham. Is that the way I should pronounce your name?
Yeah, you are pronouncing it correct. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Welcome to the Interdapt podcast. And please tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are and how you ended up here in this call.
I'm a designer at an academy, and it's been like a long journey. 7 years of experience in design, and recently, like last year, I did UI UX certification. So yeah, so I started as a design. I did bachelor's in design. So I learned about little much like how design works and everything. And then I got like influenced by other designers, like how they work and like animations and everything. So uh, kind of uh, kind of a art lover. And then I started uh, like did some certification in design and everything, and I started my career. And now I'm
Right,
at an academy, which is at tech platform in India. Yeah.
right. Yeah. I looked it up for a minute. It looks quite exciting, actually, to
Yeah.
be working at. Do you like it?
Yeah, actually. But more like as a designer, it's always a pleasure to work something that you can show to people that you have done
Right.
something, achieved something. So it's always been a challenge and a pleasure to like work on apps and everything. Because in my when I was in my first job, I used to do creating web banners, and because UI UX might not be the term that time, most of the designers like developers and everything was there, but not as the UI UX designer in
Yeah.
back in 2016. So I didn't know about this, but after
Mhm.
learning more about design and understanding about design,
Mhm.
recently everything is so pumped up as a UI UX designer. If you want to do a UI UX course and everything, you can join n number of like courses, and everything is available. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's
So,
that's yeah.
what brings you to this call today? What was the reason you said like, well, you know what, I'm just gonna hit that button and talk to whoever this that guy is.
No, actually, your feed comes in my LinkedIn, and I was wondering like how non-designers also able to create good UI and everything. Like not knowing a design much, and they are able to create good portfolios and everything. So I was just wondering how this transition works, because in my course also I was uh, meet non-designers. They were didn't know anything about Figma, didn't know about Photoshop, anything. But at end of the course, they are able to create their portfolio visually appealing and everything. So I was little wonder by like how maybe they saw some tutorials or maybe something. But
Mhm.
so as a as a designer, it's always a challenge to prove yourself, and it's always a challenge because people might think this can be done with anyone from a college going person also can do that. But
Mhm.
I think design is a process. You understand more the more you do. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was my main question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, you're right about that. Design is a process and a weird one at that. I think that actually goes for most things in life, right? If you keep exposing yourself to it, you can learn more about it. You'll hopefully get better at it if you're open for changing the way you work and getting feedback.
Yeah.
Um, but coming back to your questions, how is it possible that non-designers create visually appealing portfolios? I think
Mhm.
there's two sides to that because one side is, I think it comes down to what your definition of a designer is first
Hmm.
and foremost. It's like, why do we call them non-designers? And second is that uh, there are a tremendous amount of resources that help, let's say, non-designers reach a bare minimum of decent design, let's say. So it also kind of depends on what you think is high quality design. and what you think the responsibilities of a designer are, because it's quite easy to get some templates somewhere and start using those, right? So yeah, that's maybe my question to you is what do you what's your definition of a designer?
Uh, Designer, like as a communicator, can be someone who, as a UX designer, obvious, it's always a good to have a communication skills and everything. So somewhere I lack in that. I feel somewhat I feel. But as a designer, what I think is understanding the design languages and everything, like how colors and balance and everything is sorted. So somewhere I think that should be a minimum criteria to be a designer, and people who understand the tools are might not able to create good design, but someone who refers to resources and everything they can create. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think design is a very broad term, but people
Yeah.
that name themselves designers
Mhm.
are specifically looking to create something new. I think that's the bare minimum. They're interested in creating something, and if you want to create something, there's a lot of angles you can take in order to kind of approach that. What I'm hearing you talk about is visual design. So really the craft of defining beautiful things, let's say, right? Um,
Correct.
and then the other side to it, if you're talking about UI UX design, is the UX part. Is heavily research influenced. It's understanding people. It's like psychological, and it's understanding problems. And because in product design or UX, UI UX design, you'll meet a lot of people that are talking about solving problems.
Yeah.
And if you talk about any problem, at some point there is a human involved in that problem, right? You're doing something to help someone move along.
Yeah. Correct.
So yeah, there's so many things we can explore here. So let's see what when you're talking about non-designers, what are you worried about?
So see, uh, my thinking is like, I know people are like doing uh, graduation in science and CS or maybe some other fields, and they are coming to design, and they are doing fairly well. So what is the key point that can be a differentiate a designer from a non-designer, or maybe um, how we can improve in doing UX, because as my communication is something I lack, so it's always a challenge for me. I'm working on it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's my concern regarding this.
Right. I can
Yeah.
imagine it. So what I'm hearing is you have a visual design background. You love
Yeah.
art. You want to
Yeah.
create beautiful things. So
Yeah.
there's a worry there that if other people can create beautiful things relatively easy, it's gonna either make it much harder for you to excel, or or to excel at something else, right? Or you need to kind of pivot.
Yeah.
Um, when I talk to designers, especially the ones with a visual background, I think communication skills is one of the things I often see being a bit challenging, because a lot of visual designers do have a tendency to be a bit introvert.
Yeah. I'm kind of one of
Um,
them.
yeah, I can imagine that, and there's nothing bad about it. And I think the one harsh truth there is you want to overcome anxiety, or like in public speaking or in being confident when you speak. It's just
Yeah.
getting a lot of uncomfortable exposure to it, right? So initiate those meetings and go up on stage and talk about design. And the first few times is going to be awkward. Maybe you'll say something stupid, but
Mm.
I think the only way is like the only way over is through. It's like a bit of a battle. I used to have quite a bit of issues with this myself when I was younger, because I found public speaking very scary. like incredibly scary. Like sweat would be running down my neck and my hands would be shaking. And this is, I don't want to put this as general advice, but in my first few years of public speaking, I always had a beer before I got on stage. Like I would always have a drink. Not anymore though, because it became far less scary because I understand better what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and I'm trying to be honest about it. So that's one thing: expose yourself to the fear. That's the best way to move forward. And excelling as a designer, especially with a visual design background, I would invest. You can take two angles. Either you start with business and you learn more about how businesses work and what the fears are of people running that business, because usually they want to initiate a certain design project or solution because they spotted an opportunity or problem they want to solve, and 9 out of 10 times they come up with a solution that then involves you as a designer. A key skill there as a designer is being able to talk to those people that initiate the whole line of communication and really start asking them why they want to do this project. Because if you understand better, you might be able to propose different solutions that help them better instead of just doing whatever they think is right. That usually puts you in a good position with your peers, at least. And the same goes, so that's the other side to the same coin. It's one thing to understand business, but then the other side of UX UI is really understanding the people who you're developing the solution for. And that means investing in research skills or collaborating with researchers. And what you just said to me before the call, that you're moving to JP Morgan. So my expectation there is that they have quite a big design community with a lot of researchers. So the first move that I would take when I enter that business is talk to your PM or your manager about what is the business challenge. And second, talk to those researchers and ask them, like, how would you approach this business challenge? And then you suddenly cover a very broad space of what design constitutes, and you can kind of navigate what you want to be focusing on and how.
Yeah, correct. Thanks for this advice. I will try. Yeah, I will do the same. I'll try to figure out who all are in my team, all the researchers and everything. Try to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the hiring process like at JP Morgan? What was the role they described?
It is a production designer, so it will be more based on marketing and branding. So yeah. So it is similar to my current position.
So it's communication heavy.
Yeah.
A lot. Is it internal communication or external?
External.
So you're probably going to be communicating about services and products that JP Morgan is working on.
Yeah.
Towards maybe partners or directly to customers. So these are already bringing interesting questions to my mind, at least. Is okay, what is the tone of voice that they think is needed versus what does that the target user group, let's say, what are they sensitive to and what are they looking for? What are their issues they're trying to solve? And then you can build that bridge again from business to the target group with your designs,
Yeah. That will work. Yeah. Yes. So I just wanted to know about you more, like how you came into design and how you become a UI UX designer. At what point you think I've achieved something in my life and now I can explore new opportunities.
Yeah, that brings me way back, man. I started designing very early, but professionally, I started about 12 or 13 years ago as a visual designer first.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 years of visual design, I was kind of at the point where you are now like, okay, how do I move forward and stand out as a designer? So I felt like I could create good looking things, but I wasn't sure how to make an impact. And that's when I reached out. But actually, I didn't reach out. A UX designer reached out to me because he said, "Okay, I think you make good-looking stuff, but I can help you make smart things." So we collaborated for a while on some projects, and they became quite successful. And he taught me the first ropes of doing research, user
Mm-hmm.
research, and something just kind of clicked. So I started planning my own kind of educational path.
Mm-hmm.
What helped me a lot there was setting a really far goal because I'm a bit of a dreamer. I like having future goals.
Yeah.
And by setting that goal, I was able to cut it up into smaller pieces to define what I wanted to learn. And
Yeah.
after doing that for 3 years, I knew enough about research and visual design to talk my way into another company called Exhibia. It's
Oh.
a global IT consultancy. Started in the Netherlands, but they're worldwide now. They also have a huge, I think, like 4,000 people working in India.
Mm-hmm.
And worldwide, there are about 8 or 9,000 people now. And they offered me so many opportunities to learn more about business. And that's when I started feeling very confident because they felt confident with me, so they trusted my research and design capabilities, and they allowed me to train with people like Jeff Sutherland, the original one of the original founders of Scrum, and they allowed me to train with Jake Knapp, from the design sprint at Google Ventures before.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing my work for corporates. I used to do it for startups and scale-ups before I moved to Exhibia.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it just became more confident because I was able to keep exposing myself to things I found very scary.
Yeah.
I started as this solo designer at a small agency and then gradually moved my way up to places with hundreds or thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I think being very conscious about that is incredibly important. Having that future vision. And one of the things that also helped me was picking out a few designers or design leaders in the world that I really look up to. And I try to define those every once in a while just to reflect on my own work.
Yeah.
So, for example, I was always a big fan of Tobias van Schneider, German designer, original designer of Spotify. He writes
Mm-hmm.
cool stuff. He makes beautiful things. But I'm also a big fan of Tom Kerwin, and he's not really a visual designer per se, but he's a strategic designer, and he knows a lot about business and research, and he writes these great articles. And I read his stuff all the time, and it helps me paint a picture of what kind of designer I want to be. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got into design. Yeah.
Nice. It was a nice story, actually. It is kind of similar to mine, because I also started from a individual designer, and then I joined like multiple designers team. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, uh, yeah. We can move forward. Do you
Sure.
have any? Yeah, yeah. You can ask me anything.
Now I'm curious about whether this answered your question, and of course, what's another question you brought to the table?
Uh, uh, like how design, uh, visual design, like in UI, how UI is par parallelly important with UX. What do you think? Like most of the people do, like as a UX designer, people do UX and then it shifted to UI. So it is easy to create UIs, and doing UX is very something is very different and tough also. I think somewhere I think.
Honestly, I think creating great UIs is incredibly hard. I think it depends really on what your criteria for quality design are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy. The easy part is copying existing patterns and styles and reusing that, hopefully in a valuable way. That's the relatively easy part to do.
Mm-hmm.
But innovating on visual design, that's really hard, right? Because it requires you to have so much experience and confidence that you're going to try new things and be judged for it.
Yeah.
That is almost going into the art space again. Like, even though it's functional, it's challenging because you're trying to break people's habits on how they interact with products or websites or whatnot. I don't. So there will be a lot of different opinions on what is more important. I'm kind of in the camp of everything is equally important. It's like you cannot have great UI without great UX. You cannot build a great solution without understanding problems thoroughly. It's like you cannot have a successful business if you don't understand business. You cannot have a good product if you don't understand good product. It's like I think we should take it all serious. We should take engineering serious. We should take product management serious. We should take finance serious. In some cases, you need to take legal very serious, because you might be working with JP Morgan, for example. The way you communicate or build things may affect how people view this, huge. I don't know. Are they even still a bank? Like, it's much bigger than that, right?
Yeah.
But it like there will be implications for them, because so many people look at this company and let's say you accidentally leak client information. It's like something that can happen. But at the scale of JP Morgan, that would be, oh my God, that would be disastrous,
Yeah.
And as a designer, you get to touch all of these aspects of the company. Like the higher you grow, the more connected you get, the bigger problems you get to solve, especially
Yeah.
if you want to work on products and interfaces. You're going to be allowed to see private data of very sensitive private data, let's say, now work with that. So your responsibilities grow, and in the end, it's all important, at least for the success of a product and a business. And what you need to define for yourself first is probably, what do you want to really get good at? Is it solving problems, or is it creating interfaces, or is it doing research and understanding problems? Or maybe it's all of those things, but which discipline will you pick first? You need to, I think, have a sense of priority of how you want to navigate as a designer, because it will also depend on, bottom line, what kind of gives you energy and makes you happy.
Yeah. So, and what's your advice to new designers who are new in UI UX or maybe visual design? What's your advice?
Yeah, so you're going to work in a communication and marketing role, but what I'm hearing is you would like to move towards product.
Yeah.
So ideally, you're working on like software or websites.
Yeah. On apps and like creating apps and everything.
Right. Well, my advice to you would be, once you go into JP Morgan, go and talk to those departments and the people working there. Like that would be step one, right?
Yeah.
You just build relationships.
Yes, correct.
I think that's the absolute minimum. And then the second part would be, eventually you need to show them that you have at least, you know, you have what it takes to become a good product designer.
Yeah.
And this is where personal branding is actually quite important, because you can sell yourself as an interface designer. You can sell yourself as a researcher. You can also sell yourself as more of a generalist who tries to work throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
But you have to imagine these new people, like product managers or people working in product departments. You have to consider them as your target group, let's say, for your personal brand. So which questions do they have and how can you answer them? It's almost like a personal research objective. Maybe you should go and talk to them, ask them what they look for in a product designer, and then brand yourself in that way.
Yeah. Yes, got it. So actually, the thing is, when I joined this course, during that time, I was not very happy with the what they were teaching, because I was not getting, like, it was like we are doing everything, and after end of the day, it is named on the institute. So it is like it process can be like self-learned, but I was not happy with the uh, course, whatever they have provided. But somewhere I think research can be something that comes inside, like what question needs to be asked and what is the right amount of questions. Like you can't ask 50 questions to personal interview. So obviously that what how to develop that sense that this question needs to be asked first, and this will go and change the way of product will work.
So what you're talking about is user interviews and usability tests. So these are methods to do research. What lies in front before that is actually having a clear research objective. So the first question is actually not towards users. The first question is always towards the team or the business, asking, what do we exactly want to learn and why? Because the answer to that will define which questions you need to prioritize and which methods you need to prioritize in order to actually learn the things that you need to. This is something I see go wrong in, let's say, a lot of places that aren't very design mature yet, is that research is sometimes seen as just doing interviews or just bringing design to users. And while you may learn some surface level basic things, it hardly ever gets you anything very insightful, because you haven't prepared for the right question, like you said. So step one is getting that research objective properly framed. And if you're looking for courses or workshops, I think I would recommend having a look at Hyper Island. Hyper Island is a institution with a lot of different design studies, courses, workshops, all kinds of stuff, both in real life and also online. But their curriculum is usually pretty well founded, and they will. I'm not sure what their curriculum on research is at the moment, but I would have a look there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for this recommendation. I will definitely search.
Can I ask what workshop or course you did before? What was it?
It was offline, from Bangalore, India. A design board. From design board I did, and it took around 5 months, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it is quite extensive.
Yeah.
So Hyper Island, I've seen them do like really like short workshops all the way to full-time studies. So it's quite diverse. have a look there. What you can also do, there's a guy on LinkedIn called I hope I pronounced this right, is Joe Natoli.
Yeah,
You've seen him?
yeah.
He gives he's shaping a research course at the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe check in with him as well.
All right, all right. I'll do check. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there are some other resources also like this. Um, Chris do usually post about UX and client conversations and everything. I saw that also, and yeah,
Yeah, and of course, what's popping in my mind now is you want to dive really deep into research. Just go and read and watch everything from the Nielsen and Norman group, and they do. I think they have courses and workshops as well.
yeah,
Have you heard of them before, Nielsen and Norman?
yeah.
Yeah.
I checked on LinkedIn. Most of the time, I was like just scrolling and looking what
Mhm.
people saying on LinkedIn, how they are becoming better UX designer, and what's all the processes they are following to become a UX designer,
Right.
better UX. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nielsen and Norman group has very interesting resources, and also Jared Spool does some interesting work. I like some of his work.
Mhm.
And last but not least, I always forget her real name, but she calls herself the Mary Poppins of UX. If
Okay.
you Google that on LinkedIn, you'll find her. Wait, let me quickly look up her real name. Mary Poppins of UX. I think it's such a brilliant. Oh yeah, she's called Debbie Levitt.
Debbie Levitt.
Yeah,
Okay.
I I I mean I've never spoken to her in real life, but I consider her to be painfully honest. So I think we can all learn a lot from her.
Yeah, sure. So, I just had one more question. So the thing is, as an experienced designer, as you are experienced designer, what challenges you feel that is something that didn't come usual on a usual day? Like if you are working on something that obviously become a habit for you to like, uh, it is a process for you to like, this is how I will be working on any project or something. So what's your thoughts before starting any project? Like this is challenge or this is challenging and this is not, like something like that.
Earlier,
How you started with like understanding the product and then moving forward with.
yeah. So when I just started out doing research, what was really challenging for me is defining the right questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know much about business. I also didn't know that much about people, you know. So, um, like I just told you a little bit about this as well, but I wasn't clear on my research objectives and which methods I could use to get my answers. So I used to default a lot to doing interviews and usability tests for almost anything.
Okay.
One of the things I learned the hard way is that uh, people rarely tell you what they what they will actually do. Like the things people say and do are very different. So I started learning more about observing rather than asking questions as well. If you can observe people work in their natural environment without disturbing them too much, like they lower their guards, you get to see far more and learn far more about their behavior than when you're asking them questions they have to rationalize, right?
Mm.
So that's one of the things I found challenging is making a distinction between what answers or what questions I can actually just ask someone versus when I should just be looking at what they do.
Mm.
Um, and the second thing I found very challenging wasn't per se on the research for a product or service itself, but was actually communicating learnings towards my team and involving them in the research, because in some cases you'll be working in teams that don't appreciate research or haven't seen its value before, or they have bad experiences with people that didn't do research well.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, you might end up in teams that, like I said, are not very design mature, so they do research with the idea, with the thinking or the idea that it should just be interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you will be constantly faced with changing people's behavior in the business. So communicating why something is important is a very good skill to have. It's an essential skill to have. And I think the only way to get good at communicating what needs to happen is, one, again, get exposed to saying stupid things and learning from it.
Mm-hmm.
And two is focus really deeply on the problems you have observed and share those problems the way you've observed them. Because if you, instead of offering a solution, so instead of offering research, if you can first identify a problem, it is easier usually to get a mandate for solving the problem. And then you can solve it any way you see fit. You can do research, you can design something, you can maybe do a test,
Yeah, got it.
So communication is the hardest part for sure.
Yeah, I found it like I think it's the main part, because if you're not communicating it in a proper way, you won't get the answers right. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions for me?
No, as of now, I don't have any.
Great. Well, then it was my pleasure talking to you. And is it okay if I tag you in wherever I publish this?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah,
we can do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then your face is gonna blow up all over the internet.
I don't think so.
You know what? If you ever feel like you have more questions, you want to have another call, chat, on or offline. If you're in Amsterdam, come visit. Always happy to have a chat.
Yeah, sure. I'll let you know about what challenges I will face and let you know about that also. Yeah.
Cool. Great, Shubham. Then it was nice talking to you, and hopefully till another time.
Say thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.